There we go. Alright, well, happy Friday everyone, and welcome to another Follett House Friday. I'm Jeremy, the Museum Services Manager for the Sandusky Library and Follett House Museum. And today I thought we would do something a little different for Follett House Friday. Instead of looking at a particular artifact, I figured I'd talk a little bit about how the museum acquires artifacts or gets artifacts, and how kind of what the life of an artifact is once it's here at the Follett House or part of our collection at the Sandusky Library. So a majority, almost all of our artifacts are donations. Sometimes it will be a family member who has a piece of Sandusky history, Erie County history that they want to preserve. Sometimes it's businesses that are going out of business and they have records or artifacts or things that they think the library would be interested in preserving as part of the history of Sandusky and things like that. Every once in a while we will, I don't want to say seek out donations, that would be the wrong word. It would be that we look for things that that are a large event that we want to preserve. The best example recently would have been the bicentennial here in Sandusky. And we went around and collected different artifacts, well, I call them artifacts, but at the time, brochures, souvenirs, handouts, things that people were giving away to celebrate the bicentennial. Because for us today, they're it's what you got to celebrate the bicentennial. It could have been a Christmas ornament. It could have been one of the brag tags that the library did for summer reading, a whole bunch of stuff. And we don't think of it as history because it's new, it's ours. But 100 years from now, when they're celebrating the 200th anniversary of Sandusky, that's stuff that the library and the collection will want to display. So we do sometimes seek out artifacts as well. For someone who wants to donate an artifact, they contact the library and they say, hey, I have this artifact I'd like to donate. And either myself or our special collections librarian, Ron Davidson, will get some more information on the artifacts, take some pictures of it, meet with them maybe to talk about it. And then the decision if we're going to add the object to our collection goes to a collection advisory committee here at the library. The Collection Advisory Committee is made up of several members of library staff, as well as some members of the board of the library. The reason you have a board to make these kinds of decisions is to make sure that all the aspects are being considered, make sure everyone knows the historical aspects, and we all have our different areas of expertise. We all understand the history of this area better. So I may think an artifact isn't particularly important, but someone else who knows the history or a different part of the history would say, yes, that is very important. So we want to make sure we save it. So that's a big reason why it goes through a committee. Once an artifact is approved, there's some paperwork before it's officially turned over to the library. And then once the artifact is ours, we do the very important job of preserving it. So we want to make sure that any artifact we get will be here in another 100 years, 200 years. That's our job, is to preserve this history. So we will make sure, we try and keep the Follett House and the archives at the library, we make sure that they're in great conditions, that the humidity is right, that the temperature is right, using acid-free boxes, because regular cardboard boxes can damage artifacts over time. Things like that to make sure that we can stabilize and preserve artifacts for years and years to come. Just like most museums, the library here does not, and the Follett House and the archives, a majority of our collection is not on display. I don't know the percentage of our artifacts that are on display here in the museum, but I would, if I had to take a guess, I would put it probably in maybe the 5% range, and that's probably even a little high. Of course, the museum, the exhibits are out to educate people and to tell people about Erie County history, Sandusky history. But more importantly, our job is to preserve all these artifacts and documents and letters that you might not see on a regular basis, but they're things that we use. The blog posts. Some of you, I'm sure, follow the Sandusky history blog. You see we use pictures and artifacts and that to update the blog. We have people who come in to do research, who want to see some of our artifacts or read through some of our papers or see maps that they use. So even though these things, the artifacts, aren't always on display, they still are very important because they still, our big job is to preserve history and to make sure that history is around for years and years and years to tell these stories. One of the kind of, I don't want to say behind the scene things, but it's interesting. So when you come to the museum and you see, I'll hold up, if you remember from our first week, we had the Follett House chair. So here's the description of our chair, which is very nice, and you'll see this on most of our artifacts, of course, are labeled so you know what they are. But at the bottom, you'll see a little bit of text. I'll try and hold it up close to the camera so you can see. You see gift of, so that if you see that, of course, that tells you who donated the item. But the bottom, you see a number. So you see 2018 and then another number, which was 6,050. So some of you who have been to the museum probably have looked at those numbers and tried to figure out what that is or what that means. So the first number, the 2018, is exactly what it is. That's a year. That's the year that an artifact was donated to us. I'm not exactly sure what year we started labeling artifacts with the year. I know there's stuff going, artifact numbers going into the 1920s. So I do know we have some early. I've seen stuff 1930s as well and going forward. So that gives you, as some of you may know, the Sandusky Library has been collecting artifacts since the Carnegie Building opened in 1901. So we have artifacts going back to 1901. And 1 week I will show you the first ever artifact as part of our collection. We'll talk a little bit about it. And then the second number is the actual number of the artifact. So this one is 6,050. And yeah, so you might think that we only have 6,050 items in our collection, but it's kind of a, I don't want to say misnomer, but it kind of has a false feeling to it because sometimes you get we have a circus train, and there are probably, if you label all the parts, 50, 60 different pieces to the circus train. And instead of giving each one an individual number to make sure we know they're all part of the same collection, you could say we'll just give a number 200. So we call it 200A for the first part of the train, 200B, 200C, and so on, so that we all know it's part of a collection. So we have, I did a count one time, I don't remember exactly how many, but we have thousands upon thousands of artifacts in part of our collection, and we're very lucky that we have all these things and we are able to be a home for so much history as part of Erie County. So I just thought it'd be kind of interesting for you all that, we've been talking about artifacts for different weeks, and thought it'd be interesting for you to know how we do acquire different artifacts throughout the year, and kind of what the big idea of how we get those artifacts and add them to our collection. So I'm not seeing any questions, but I could be missing them, and if I am, I apologize. But I will be watching this video for comments, so if you have any questions about how we get artifacts or how we care for them or anything like that, leave a question in the comments. And I hope you all enjoy your weekend. I think it's supposed to be lovely weather. Thanks for joining me for another Follett House Friday.